Welcome to the Voice of Retail. I'm Michael LeBlanc, your host. The Voice of Retail is produced in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada and is presented by Hale, a performance marketing partner trusted by brands like ASICS, Sage, and Orange Theory to scale with focus and impact. Chris, welcome back to the Voice of Retail podcast. How are you, my friend?
Very good, Michael. Thank you for having me. Really excited about today and being able to have a thoughtful discussion with you for sure.
Yeah, as I said, it's not the first time you've been on, but I remember I was searching. I was sure you've been on the pod, and you were on a panel I recorded when I was doing some work for Enterprise Ireland. But this is your first solo appearance. So much has happened, so much going on, both in your life and in the world of retail. So why don't we start kind of at the beginning? Tell us, for those who don't know who you are, tell us about a bit of your background and what you do for a living today.
Yeah, the background, I've been very fortunate. I've spent probably about 25 years in retail, I got lucky and started out with one of the biggest with Walmart long time ago now. And it's just been very fulfilling and very rewarding to be able to go from different retailer, whether it's been Ren's Pets or Home Hardware, and launch their eCommerce and start integrating it into an omni-channel strategy. Very, very grateful for the people and the experiences. And then now I've flipped the gears and have been with a company called Hale Performance Marketing Agency, and I am their VP of Partner Growth and Marketing, and really just betting on myself and using this opportunity to learn the agency side. And we can get into the why moving from retail to agency a little bit later, but I've been blessed with a very positive career and a great network.
I met you and Matt. Met Matt for the first time. Of course, I had known you for many, many years. And we hit it off right away, and we thought there was a common purpose here. Now, I'm curious about two things. A, tell us a little bit more about what Hale does and what makes them a little bit different in a fairly competitive market. And then B, and you touched on it, what's it like being on the other side of the table for the first time and looking at retailers across the table and saying, I was in that chair, and let me tell you, I have something interesting for you. Tell me about both those things.
Yeah, brilliant question. Thanks. So Hale is a performance marketing agency that works with some of the leading brands in Canada and the US. We help these brands grow with measurable and accountable metrics. And what makes Hale different and why I joined is the approach. And that approach is just about being better. It's not about adding new bells and whistles all the time, but it's making sure that we really focus on doing better for our clients. And it leads into why I left retail to go to an agency side. For years, I've led massive teams, number of agencies on my retail teams. And too often as a retailer, I felt that my agencies were really, really great as far as showing the good and the KPIs. And when the numbers were there, they were quite willing to take all the credit. But when the numbers were soft, I felt like I was on my own all of a sudden, and I would have to walk into boardrooms or walk into a Monday morning meeting and explain why the results didn't happen. And too often when I got back to agency day, the result was, hey, if you want to get those numbers, let's spend more. And I was like, how did we align on these KPIs months ago? And then when we don't hit them, we're having a conversation about spending more. So I wanted to have a model where agencies were truly integrated into the business, not just an extension. And that's really the conversation that I started having with Matt through LinkedIn. And then we jumped on a few phone calls together, and he felt the very same way, where he wants his team to be very accountable to the clients. And Matt and Mike, the co-founders, were just really on the same page with me on that kind of disconnect. And we want to have clients and the agencies have the same KPIs, share that pressure, celebrate those wins together. And that culture is hard to come by, and Hale brings that to the table.
Oh, fantastic. Sounds like you've landed at a great place. So interesting to be, and it's so valuable to have both perspectives, right? Not just to work. It's one thing to work with agencies, another thing to be one, and then reflect back on what you do in the head office. All right. Let's dive right into your new book, Retail Rewired. it serves kind of as a vector for us gaining and thinking about modern retail. You've had a podcast before. You're a prolific thinker, thought leader in places like LinkedIn, and you had a great podcast. And where was it that you had the idea to write a book? I mean, you've done all these things. Is it all long been percolating? Is that a point of arrival for you? You just said, you know what, I got so much information, I can't get it out. I want to get it out into a book. Talk about your journey, about why you wrote a book.
Yeah, I think, Michael, there was no point where I said, I want to write a book. I've grown up with a learning disability, and I was going through school through reading clinics my whole life. So that was very much a weakness for me, where I kind of steered away from that and focused on my public speaking skills and my networking skills versus writing. However, what drove me to it were a few things. I found myself on this hamster wheel in retail of always building decks and defending the same thing over and over again. And one of those was e-commerce cannibalization for the store sales. And as I was writing a thesis on
that old chestnut, as I used to call it, right? Like I remember you and I talking about that. You might as well argue with gravity, but okay, let's have it out,
Yeah. And too often I would, 2 years would go by, everyone be aligned with e-commerce growth and the fact that, and I always want to take the word e-commerce out of it and just focus on the website and the power of the website as your window for the customers to do research, connect with any department that they wanted to. It's more than just that shopping cart up on the top right-hand corner of a page, but still having to justify that cannibalization. And what I kind of refer to now when it comes to that topic all the time is, isn't it funny? I lived in Fergus in Ontario, and we had a store in Fergus, a Walmart store, and it draws customers from all over the place, Arthur and surrounding markets. And I'm sure on their roadmap is to open up another Walmart in probably Arthur in 5, 6, 7 years. When they open up a new store, they'll call that growth. When you open up e-commerce, you call it cannibalization. So to me, it's like, how do you contrast that and really bring it to the CFO's light? So that was one part of the opportunity that led me. I was writing too many pieces about that. The second conversation is about loyalty versus points programs and how they play a role in an organization. And while the points programs, I do give full credit that they can work. I think there's much more about an emotional connection when you want to call it loyalty, not just a loyalty wrapped around a points program. So I had a few discussions about that, and all of these things were just getting documented over and over again. Third, I actually started writing more topics because I've been taking a pause on my personal podcast for probably a year or so. Just because my career has just been so busy. So I had to deprioritize that.
Takes a lot of work to put out a good podcast, man.
I know. I watch you do it all the time, and I'm always impressed with it because people hear the outcome, but they don't understand the level of activity has to go in the background, or the constant moving of calendars to make it work for any of your guests. So I have a great appreciation for it. So just as I was writing topics down and thinking about stuff like personalization, or it forces you to think different about the topics. Like personalization, when you talk to a lot of people, is about personalizing an offer. And I think more about personalizing an experience now. So challenging myself, how do we personalize an experience versus just discounts? And then I think last really comes from the emotional level of me working and doing some volunteer work with underprivileged kids, and doing some work with the Pinball Clemens Foundation, and mentoring some of the students there and the questions that they asked. I just wanted to create something where folks could refer to that there's different ways to learn, and you can still have success throughout your career, and you can define your own level of success. Don't let other people do that. So I want to just put something out there, and I think it was kind of a conversation with my 20-year-old self that was very awkward and didn't know what I was going to do, to just write this book as a reflection of, look what you've accomplished, and take a moment to reflect on it, and hopefully other people will enjoy it as well.
It's definitely a big milestone. And who did you write the book for? When I talk to authors and they say, really, my book is for operators or store level. Ron Thurston wrote a book and it's really for our store level operators. And other people write a book like Steve Dennis. He says, well, it's really strategic leaders, decision makers. When you sat back, you've kind of articulated a wide canvas of the thinking that went into the book. Who do you think would benefit most from reading it?
Yeah, I definitely think the book is for retail leaders. And when I say retail leaders, I don't mean that by title. You can be an executive, an operator, a store manager, and at any level, but you're a leader. When I say that, I mean someone that wants to grow, inspire, and grow their career. One of the greatest examples of my career was working for Walmart, and I had the opportunity to launch Walmart Canada's website. And man, that could
be big someday. I heard that could be big someday, right?
Yeah, look at where it is now, 20 years later. But ultimately, that experience, I went into a meeting and I was like on my own launching this website. I went and presented to the leadership, and for 2 hours, I took bullet after bullet after bullet, getting asked questions, understanding I really didn't know what I was presenting, and didn't think it out full enough. And I walked out of that meeting pretty deflated, and Jim Thompson put his arm around me and he was like, "How did that go?" And I was like, "Not great." And he goes, "Probably it was one of the best learning experiences that you're ever going to reflect on." And honest to goodness, it is about being able to go in and make sure you have meetings with people ahead of time, get them on board. So that way, when you do the big presentation, it's not new news for everyone. And it was just like little moments like that I wanted to take some of my learnings, some of my failures, some of my wins, and put it into best practices and almost a playbook for any leader at any level to read through. So there's nuggets in there for anyone that's interested in retail.
Fantastic. Now, you've organized the book around 4 pillars: invest in your people, stay customer-centric, think local, deliver consistency. There's probably 10 things that were mulling around in your head, but how did you align on those 4 things? Are those, to your mind, the key drivers of success in retail, and I guess also in many businesses?
Yeah, I think those 4 just kind of, I didn't even do it with intention. It was when I was trying to summarize the content of the book that those kind of themes just really came to the forefront. So what I really started with, again, was just theses, ideas on specific topics. And then they just started to fall into kind of those 4 principles. And I really like the one where I was talking about team, and the second where I consistently talk about, I think it really came from my work at Home Hardware. As a decision maker in retail, it's difficult enough. But when you go and you work for a dealer owner operated organization that has you thinking at basically 3 levels each time: what's good for the corporation, what's good for our dealers, and what's good for our customers. Sometimes, a lot of times, they're not good for each other. And how you think through those and how you prioritize, this activity, I really need to make sure it's a win for our customers, or this activity, I really have to make sure that our dealers are taken care of, because they're the really most critical piece. If their front doors are not able to stay open, then the customers hurt, the dealer hurts, and the corporation hurts. So having that kind of swim lane journey for all of them was critical in how I was thinking about the book. And going over to that kind of model makes you a better retailer.
Talk about customer immersion a little bit. So, we're all trying to figure out, all of us ourselves as shoppers, and there's a lot of different models and ways to go about, you call it customer immersion, as I said, but you think of it as a discipline, and these sessions that we really, hopefully raise up either undelivered or unsatisfied needs, or you find insights. Talk about your approach to getting customer insight? Particularly, I guess let's start it two ways. One is, it's somewhat difficult when people are just using the web. We figure out what they're doing. You can see quantitatively, but not qualitatively. And how do you build that dashboard and then communicate that through the organization? So 2-point question.
I think from the customer immersion, I actually challenged my team, and I picked this up, honestly. I don't know if you remember diapers.com. They were out of New York City, and I had the...
Picked up by Amazon, I think, right?
That's correct. Yes, they did. Yeah. So they were doing a lot of unique things at the time in the New York market, and they were in the process of launching their mobile app. And I was fortunate enough to be in their office one day because we had a conference that we were going to together, and I was sitting there just as an observer, and they were presenting their thought leadership on mobile. And I remember the president saying, "Great presentation. I would need you to take this further." And he challenged the staff to take the afternoon off, go out to the streets with their phones, engage, walk the streets, scan QR codes at the time, and do these things, and do it with hundreds of people passing you on a sidewalk. Right? Like, to just think about an experience that someone's going to walk up on the side of a street, scan a billboard with cars honking. Like, it's just, it's just a different experience to actually live it versus putting it onto a PowerPoint slide. So that was one. Or the real life experience I had with Walmart, and we launched QR codes in our grocery in middle of Union Station in a hub where back then QR codes were not part of the integration of your camera. So you had to actually download an app, take that app, then you had to scan. Hopefully it worked with the version of the phone that you had. All of this to say that you basically just had a Union Station a billboard versus anything really functional. And that really came to life. It didn't in the home office, but it came to life in seeing the downfalls of it in action. So great learning experience. And then the last
and thank God, by the way, for COVID, I guess, which suddenly gave the QR a whole new life. If there's one, I don't know if I call it positive because it's an ugly little thing, but it's part of our lives more now than ever. I would never have imagined, because I knew all those experiences, and to see that thing, that little QR code, does that surprise you? Like, from that experience, I thought that it'd be dead and gone, but man, it's back, and it's actually pretty useful.
That's the piece, Michael. You nailed it with the usability of it. It is very useful in the way it has evolved, and it's more of a interaction. And again, because it became part of the camera, where you didn't have to download something in real time,
big unlock.
It matured in the industry. So that was a big win for that. And I think too often there is technology and pieces that are ahead of its time, and we kind of give up on them versus, okay, how do we rethink this technology to be useful? Or maybe other pieces need to catch up so that it becomes valuable. So the immersive piece was something that I just now started to do as a best practice. And you'll hear it a lot of times in retail where people are saying, hey, we got to get out away from our desk. We got to get to the store level and walk the stores. And I mean, Sam Walton wrote about it in his book, right? Like, this is nothing new. It's just we fall into these habits of needing to be in that comfort zone of the same parking spot every day, the same walk to my desk every day, and that uncomfortable feeling of going to new stores.
Another presentation to get done, and it is hard. I remember at the shopping channel, we had we were blessed because we had so many people who would call in to order. Right, you either call in, and once every 2 weeks, Ted Starkman was president when I was there. He said, "Listen, let's all spend an hour listening to calls," and it's the best thing ever. It's like that was our closest to walking the store floor, and you just hear you'd hear what the associates deal with. Do you have your credit card? Well, my son took my credit card, so I don't think they're ready to order, and you're asking, why is your call time so high? Well, have a listen to these calls. We'll be right back after these messages. The Voice of Retail is brought to you by Hale, the partner behind some of the fastest growing DTC and retail brands in North America. Hale is recognized for senior teams who cut out the noise and keep their focus on what matters most: growth. Their approach is based on outcomes, not hours. They are selective with who they partner with, bringing speed, accountability, and a clear strategy to every engagement. paid media, content, performance, all of it connects directly to real results. That's why brands like A6 Sage and Orange Theory choose Hale to help them scale. Learn more at wearehale.com. Let's talk about the front line for a little bit. When we talk about culture and the experience of associates, this intersection of all the ideas that happen, but then what happens actually on the floor, whether it's the associates or the organization. Of course, in a model like home hardware, it's quite diffuse. It can be quite varied. It's both very local and a little bit hard to sometimes get your arms around. What's your experience and what's your advice?
I do argue that the frontline culture is the brand. You can put out every radio campaign or TV commercial and make your brand feel a specific way, but it's the customers that are living, breathing it with your staff. And right. you know well as anybody in the Canadian market, still e-commerce is only a few % of your total business. So it is the store experience that's going to make all the difference in the world. And in fact, my partners from Cattle helped me with some survey results for the book. And one of them was 71% of Canadians say the staff attitude and service are very or extremely important to where they shop and why they shop. So this means if your team isn't engaged, then your brand isn't engaged. And that is a significant piece that people have to consider, especially when you're making decisions on how much staff, how many dollars you want to spend on staff, the training that you provide to them. Those things are critical. And this is where I always come back to that point about the loyalty. I think your staff has a great deal to bring to making a customer feel loyal. Like back in the day, we used to watch a TV show called Cheers, and that experience of Norm walking in and everyone yelling his name, that's the experience. People want to be part of something and needs to feel like a culture, not just an exchange of a transaction.
Right. So your advice is for associates to yell at customers. Is that what you're saying? I'm kidding.
High fives maybe, but I don't know about yelling them
maybe. Welcome back. Let's talk about loyalty for a few minutes. Now, loyalty programs and loyalty CRM, as it's known. We all know that loyalty programs don't generate loyalty. There's a purpose and a strategy if they're done well, and there's many examples of them being done well. And how do you think about, with your experience, how do you think about loyalty wired into programs that, you don't want them just to be like a coffee card where they just punch and get another thing? You really can have the opportunity to activate those programs. How do you think about, and what's your advice around activating loyalty programs, not just, giving out points?
Yeah, I think of loyalty as a real emotional connection. And I challenge any leader to sit down and look at their loyalty programs and see how they connect with a customer. Do you send them flowers for their birthday? Do you, as a customer, may have a preference? And this is when we are collecting preferences as retailers. It's often about what categories do they want to shop or what items do they like. But from a loyalty perspective, your shopping habits are much more than that. What time do you like to shop? Do you come in on Saturday mornings? Do you wait until the evening? How do you then start putting offers that are tailored to that person's individual journey to create a more loyal experience with them? And I think too often we just go to the standard kind of KPIs that we want to understand about a customer, or points about their age, their demographic, etc., versus how do we enrich that experience of shopping with them? Or if we understand their age, maybe we could provide something of a little bit more service for people with certain special needs, or like just how do we stand out in that customer's mind in that moment that they come into the store? Because I often talk about on stage a micro transactions, whether that's researching an item, having a good dialogue with an associate or a store manager. All of those lead to your purchase. It's not about just coming in and picking that one item off of a shelf. So to me, that's what real loyalty means. And someone the other day told me a great example, because it was a debate that we were having on LinkedIn, where one company was saying, I think points programs is all my customers need. And I said, you might be right for your customer, but I think we all need to understand our individual business. like a butcher, for example, I may not be rushing to a points program or to the cheapest piece of meat. I like the quality of meat, the instructions on how to cook it, all of those aspects of my shopping experience that will create loyalty for me in that example.
You're as experienced in the technology behind this as anyone I've had on the mic. Are you surprised at how little progress we've made in customized offers and things like emails? I still get emails regularly from retailers I shop with that don't really reflect that, what I buy. They sometimes, this is a whole other issue, they reflect more a retail media model. But are you surprised, given AI and cloud computing and the power and personalization, that we're not a little bit farther ahead than you thought we might be?
I feel like you just served this one up for me. You must have read ahead. I desperately, when I think about email campaigns and you purchase that barbecue and then you get an offer for a related item, but you've already purchased that related item somewhere else, it is one of the most frustrating. Or you've just done some research on a barbecue as an example, and then maybe you went to store level and you made it, but it's not connected to your online persona, and then you get an offer for a barbecue. These things are very frustrating, and I don't understand why we haven't solved them. Or a toilet.
Like, you get offers that are totally unrelated to your purchases, not just, ancillary items that haven't tracked what your core purchase was, right?
Yeah, there's that. And there's this. So there's two pieces. I say, one, the industry needs to find a way that we create and we work together to create a persona on a customer. And what I mean by that is, maybe Walmart and Home Hardware partner together and Chris Parsons is tracked across multiple retailers. Everyone wins. The customer will win. We will stop offering silliness to customers that have made a purchase because we're naive to think that they're not shopping at different retailers. So how can we have this kind of collective view of a consumer so we can all serve them better? Mm-hmm. I know it's pie in the sky, and a lot of folks will not want to be that kind of sharing of transparency with each other and how they interact with Chris Parsons, but I do think it could be a major win overall for that experience. And then the next piece is, when I think about the Netflix experience, and when I click on Netflix, right away it's the one entry point, but my family can easily toggle between their different personas and get their curated information as an experience. I find when I'm on a website, most of the time my son's ruined my experience because what he's looking for or my wife is looking for are now recommendations for me because they use my one platform versus a very easy toggle for each of them. And I think if we're retailers take that Netflix approach and embed that into their user flow, knowing that people are probably going to log in with one email address because it's just there and it's easy to get on. But then if there's a toggle to the different platforms, it could create a much richer experience.
That's such a great point. All right, let's wrap up. I want to know, you've written the book, you're getting some feedback on it. We'll talk a little bit about where you can find the book. But if you cast your mind forward and think about the book and your thoughts and your presentations as catalysts, where do you hope retail is in 3 years from today? I mean, one book, many books aren't going to change the course of an entire industry, but they can all help. What's your hope for the industry 3 years from today?
My hope for the industry is we can get past a dialogue of the cannibalization and start thinking about how all of these programs run as a symbiotic ecosystem. And before you just go and launch a single siloed program, really think it out about how it's a connector to any of the other programs that you have in marketplace. Because too often we will, as leaders, have an idea in marketing or in operations, and the operations person will take that to their leader. They will get the okay to go ahead and run the program, but we have not connected it across the ecosystem of the retailer. So my challenge to anyone that's listening is to just take that moment, take that extra day, meet with your counterparts. I'm very fortunate because I'm able to connect those dots. My experience at Walmart forced me to have e-commerce experience, logistics experience, merchandise experience. So thinking through these things becomes, I'm a generalist versus so many folks that are launching a program are an email expert, a paid media expert. And you have to put yourself into the cross-functional shoes to be able to come up with the right release of a program. So I hope that's where we can get to in the next few years. I don't think it's that difficult for us to do it. The technology is there. Definitely so many smart people in our business that I think we can easily enrich our customers' experience and make it really frictionless.
The book is Retail Rewired. Where can people get their hands on it? Is it available today?
It's available today. It's all online. You can get it through Amazon, Indigo, Barnes & Noble, Walmart. So go on, look for Retail Rewired. As the search takes a little bit on sites, if you put Retail Rewired by Chris Parsons, it will even index faster for you.
Fantastic. And what's the best way to get a hold of you? You're a LinkedIn guy. What's the best way to get in touch with you? Maybe talk about what you can do with Hale, and maybe you do speaking gigs and so much stuff. So how do they get in touch?
Yeah, I mean, I would love for anyone to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I definitely learned from you, Michael, about being a connector, and networking is so important to me. I will be happy to spend any time speaking to folks about retail, and we may not agree on certain topics, but the conversation is the most important piece that will help us get to a new path forward. So I appreciate any dialogue. And if you're at an event, I'm going to be at eTail Toronto in the next week or so, and just come by, say hello.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on everything you've accomplished, Chris. It's fun to watch your career blossom and zig and zag through different organizations, now on the other side of the table. And listen, I encourage anybody who has a chance to hear you speak or shake your hand to absolutely do so. So for now, thanks so much for being my guest on the Voice of Retail podcast. Wish you much continued success, and looking forward to seeing you real soon.
Thank you, Michael. Keep up the great work. I know a lot of people tune into your thoughts, and we appreciate you in the industry.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of The Voice of Retail. If you haven't already, follow on your favorite podcast platform so new episodes will land automatically each week. And be sure and check out my other retail industry media properties, the Remarkable Retail Podcast with Steve Dennis and the Global eCommerce Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, Senior Retail Advisor, Keynote Speaker. If you want more content or chat, follow me on LinkedIn. Safe travels, everyone.